there's some Revelator songs that I'm like, man, we got to bring those back. But we've done so many songs and albums. There's like so much to choose from that I guess we don't think about it all the time.
We need to get you a really good slide player in Nashville, and you guys need to cover a Derek Trucks song.
You know, he told me Susan wrote the song, which he was proud of. He said that with great pride, you know, the way you say nice things about your family.
From the first note with Tedeschi Trucks, they just blow you away.
Yes, we will. I wouldn't argue with anyone that says that could be my favorite song on I Am the Moon.
He, signs my ticket, and I look over at Susan. I say, Susan, would you sign it too? And she goes, oh, heck yeah.
Kevin calls me and was like, hey, man, what are you doing? I was like, nothing. He was like, Derek wants to record some tuba stuff. I said, when do you want to do it? And he was like, let's do it Wednesday.
It was Midnight Harlem. And it caught our attention, man. And we started diving deep, and we're like, okay, we got to see these guys.
What's up? Welcome to the unofficial Tedeschi Trucks podcast. This is episode number 138, and I am Adam Choit. To follow this show, it's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram and on YouTube. It's Tedeschi Trucks Podcast. Please subscribe, give the show likes, shares, comments. That's all appreciated for sure. AdamChoit.com for all my personal stuff, at Adam Choit on Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me. I want to get into today's show shortly. The band's off right now. Got some quiet time from what I understand on the schedule during the holidays. Happy New Year, by the way, everybody, 2024. I always forget what year it is anyway. Once we got into the 2000s, I think they all kind of started blending together more than ever. But yeah, please subscribe on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. This is a live stream right now, but I will be putting out an audio version of this episode. TedeschiTrucksPodcast.com for all things related to the show. TedeschiTrucksBand.com. That's the band's official website. But for today's episode, I was thinking we'd do a recap of 2023. I guess most people do their recaps in December, before the end of the year, towards the end of the year, before the new year starts. But I was like, maybe I'll, it's not too late. It's never too late. So I figured we'd do that, look ahead. Larry James, multiple time guest on this show, fan who he actually compiled and posted in some various Facebook groups and whatnot, month by month summary of the band's year, which is pretty damn comprehensive. And I don't know what I'm thinking, being this ambitious, thinking that we could have a conversation and go through it chronologically, because we're going to go on tangents, I'm sure, and him and David Flamm, who will also be joining us, and Garrett Strand, as well as maybe some others as well. I'm sure we're all going to have stories and things to share from this past year, and I'm going to bring them in momentarily. But it was such a special year. It's almost, I keep saying it over and over again, and I'm sure I'm going to repeat this more and more as a theme as we go. Just the fact that I was not able to get to a single TTB show last year, 2023. And I felt like I went to shows. I forget that, like, I did not go to shows. I'm like, oh, was that Atlanta show that I went to? The Fox, was that last year? Was that the year before? All the years are kind of, it's not that they're blending together, but especially this past year, as I realized I got a chance to speak to so many fans and connect with new people. It just made me feel that much more like I was at these shows. I was at the Ryman. I was in Chicago when it was raining or whatever the case may be. And so it felt like a fun year for me. And I felt so much a part of things, even though I was not at a single show. But that's going to be changing this year. As some of you know, I'll be getting to the Beacon. But without further ado, let's bring in these other super fans, and let's recap TTB and see where it goes. Hopefully we don't keep talking for 5 hours, but I'm sure we'll have a nice fun conversation. So let's bring in Garrett, David, and Larry. There they are. Everybody's
hello.
Here. Testing.
Yeah,
1, 2, 3. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Where is everywhere? Let's say where we are, and then we'll get into the music stuff. Garrett, where are you?
I'm just outside of Knoxville, Tennessee.
Nice. And where are you, David?
I'm in the Atlanta, Georgia area.
And Larry?
Charleston, South Carolina, greater area.
Gotcha. And I'm in Los Angeles. I'm in the Valley here. What? Well, I want to go to Larry. I might even let Larry steer the ship here because I want to know I guess the history and the thought, like because you compiled like I was saying, a comprehensive sort of month by month list summarizing TTB highlights. I did copy and paste it into a doc here. Maybe I could share it in the Facebook group, even though that's technically private. But I thought maybe I'd let you have the floor and you could kind of walk us through some of the highlights, and then Garrett, myself, and David could jump in and be like, I was at that show, or I remember this. And I don't know if we'll be able to breeze through everything. Maybe this will have to be a 2-part episode or something. But tell me the history of what made you want to write this up, and where did you share it, and we'll go through it.
Sure. Well, this is actually my excuse me, my third time doing it. I had this well, first of all, I continuously about every quarter do a review of a show from a past archive release, and usually I go through it month by month, and then I kind of pick one that I like, and then I try to research as much as I can about that show, looking up old photographs or whatever online videos there are, and then I listen to it, and then I get my own thoughts together, and I put out what I refer to as this day in TTB history. And actually, it was started years ago, probably 5 years ago, or however long the Facebook group has been going around. With I don't know the gentleman's name, but he started it with just like one show, and then he stopped doing it. And I really loved reading them. It really inspired me to be more of a fan and kind of get more into depth with the music and each individual musician that's involved. It's so easy to focus on Derek and Susan, but when the attention is on the whole band, your kind of world opens up a little bit more. That being said, I've basically taken one show every 3 months or so and picked it as my archive release that I'm going to review. And then at the end of the year, past 3 years, I've done like a year in review. Not as extensive as this year, but basically it's a way of me kind of giving back to the community about like my perspective of how I like to view this band. And I think they've done a wonderful job as a band with, can you help me out with the guy's name who does their Bradley? I think it's Bradley.
Social media, Bradley.
Social media, yeah. They've done a wonderful job this year with that. What Bradley has, and trying to chronologize all the shows and kind of give some feedback on like what's happening with the band. But before this year, it was just kind of like simple blurbs. We didn't really have a perspective of like what was going on in between shows. What was the travel like? It was just from us fans looking inward. And I feel like this time it gives us a chance to kind of be reflective of what we see collectively, plus what they're putting out. So, and this was such a huge year, so you kind of have to go through it one segment at a time. So
these were not necessarily shows that you were in attendance for. These were just ones that they've done. You kind of picked like the best of per month and just did kind of a deep dive on that. Well, I guess it helps if something had more content available, photos, video, audio, fan shot, or otherwise available. But you kind of did a deep dive on one show per month, basically, is the thought.
Basically, yeah. And it's not, any favorite. It's a favorite to me, but it doesn't mean that it's the best of by any means. Everything is cumulative and personal. So, I just happen to listen to a lot of the archive releases, everyone that's ever put out. So as it comes out, and then I kind of write down which ones I listen to the most. And then I go back, and if it's worth a review, then I put it out there from a fan's perspective. And I do this for all the bands I listen to, obviously the ones that have a big archive release, Grateful Dead, that kind of stuff. And, I always enjoy music history. It's really interesting that you had the gentleman on last time with the books and the documentary reviews. And I really enjoyed that podcast because that's kind of how I like to listen and watch and kind of digest music as well. I like to know the history behind why these things are happening. And I feel like if, like in my year review, now I can go back and read that, and now I can say, okay, this is the history of the band for that year, and now I can see individually how it evolved, and if it's important or not. But they're moving around so much, doing the 12-month, review also looked at like how many places they've been, how many musicians they collaborated with, and just how many shows in general they put out. And it's overwhelming for one band to do all that. And it's pretty incredible.
I read that, Larry. That was a great put together. Did you have in there how many shows they did in 2023?
No, but I believe they did publish that recently. I think Bradley put it out on their social media. I think
right. They have they put out a newsletter also for their fan newsletter or whatever their sign up thing. I think that had a lot of stats as well in it. Probably what you guys are referring to.
Right. I'd have to cheat really fast and look at re-listen, and that doesn't even account for everything that's just the ones that were recorded. But
81, I got here 81 shows around the world, 118 different songs played live.
81 shows. All right, I did pretty good then. All right.
Ain't that something in part of me? Ain't that something in part of me tied for the most performed song 42 times, followed by Here My Dear 41, 230 volunteers at Kofi Day of service, 37,949 miles traveled on the road, and then they gave some what that's equivalent to, countless friends along the way, and then they thank the fans and share some pictures and things. But it was quite a year, and they're cutting back, and they cut back. That's cutting back for them.
Yeah, it sure is.
And that doesn't even mention, and I guess Kofi's Day of Service to some degree, but it doesn't mention private shows and private gigs and and individual gigs that band members do, and late nights playing shows for shits and giggles, and their time doing interviews and other causes and things like that. Like, this band is insanely busy. I think all 12 of them. Even, I mean, just thinking of Kebby, all the things the projects and things that he's involved in Atlanta. It's like, I don't know. I'm crazy for thinking that we can actually summarize this band's, past year in an hour, but we can try. I'll let Larry continue to steer the ship, and Garrett and David, you jump in, whenever you want to.
Sure. I mean, I guess I'll just, I wasn't really thinking about doing that, but I'll just go down the, winter, spring, we'll do it seasonally. How about that?
Sounds good.
If you just want to recap what I wrote, I mean, so the winter and
highlights of your highlights.
Yeah. So I think the winter, spring was great because they toured Florida. I mean, that to me, if I was a Floridian, I would have hit every one of those shows. I think we almost did.
No, we did. I think we got 4 of them. We didn't hit them all. We did get 4, and we were I think the first one of the year was down in Fort Myers. And I think you caught that in your write-up. That was the first playing of Mr. Clean.
Yeah.
And had to do some research to find out what that was all about after that show. They kind of, hooked that on the end of Stand Back or something. It was really, it was exciting. The first show of the new year, hearing something that had never heard them play before. It was really cool.
Yeah, I think that was rad combination. And just the way they, sandwiched it in, I think I mentioned this before, but it's, to me, one thing to play like an obscure song out of another song. Some rock bands do that, but to actually like interweave like a complex horn jazz number like that, with complicated interlaid parts, it's just really impressive. They do it on the fly too, and which I don't think they actually dropped it after the end of the spring, right? They didn't play it the summer, and they didn't play it the fall. So
I think it kind of didn't show up near as often as the year went on. It was pretty exciting to hear it the few times we got to hear it.
They kept playing. I was gonna say they kept playing They did keep playing Stand Back a little bit here and there, but I think they just kind of stuck a little bit. They cut it down a little bit You know,
they cut it down. Yeah, I actually saw them in Savannah in the spring, and they played just Stand Back. So they didn't add
Right.
it. It was probably on the way out at that point, you know, which is great for fans that did catch it, like you, Dave. I mean, it's a treat, you know, to be able to have those experiences, and then, you know, maybe they'll never do it again, or maybe they'll bring it back in 5 years or something. That's the beauty of this band, and how they change things up, and how it's unexpected when you walk in the door what you're truly going to experience. And so that's, again, that getting back to why I do these things. It's fun to reflect upon all the inner changes and constant get the guesswork, I guess, you know.
Right, for sure. Freddie Hubbard is the artist
Yeah,
who
yeah.
originally recorded Mr. Clean. Yeah, and there's such a, like we're talking, there's like a narrative and a story to this band, and it's fun for us to follow that as it evolves. And there was a story to this past year, and in terms of even, you know, their song selections and how they put their set lists, we know that there's a method to the madness. And I'm thinking of another post, I forget what someone said, it's just one of those like, oh, what do you want to hear them play next year kind of like post. And I think it was Daniel Marino, who might be joining us, another fan who's been on the show before. And basically he just replied, just all the originals that they haven't played in a while. Like that's like what I look forward to the most. It's like, what originals have you not played in a while? You know,
like this one,
from Let Me Get By, or Sweet and Low, Let Me Get
like
By,
this one, Sweet and Low,
songs, and a handful from Signs they haven't played. You know, and there's a bunch from, you know, even Revelator. There's always stuff.
Sure,
sweet like your T-shirt there, the Sweet and Low. So it's like, that's what I want to hear. Or the originals, or even some covers that they haven't played in a while are fun. Right. But let's continue on with the journey.
Well, I think Larry mentioned in his article as well. I think the last show, it was the last show in Florida, was Pensacola, and it was a spot that Ann and I had never been to before to see TTB, and that's when they kind of went the tongue-in-cheek route, and had a big smile when they did Anyhow into Chevrolet, right? They gave the nod. I think it might have been the only time they put those two together. I'm not sure, but it was, you could really see the band kind of laughing, and definitely it didn't fall. You know, I certainly knew where that was going. I don't know how many people in the crowd did, but it was that was really a funny thing with the commercial being pretty popular right back at the, you know, towards the beginning of the year.
I joke about it, but I wonder like how often either this band in this case or something like this case, like how often bands are literally contractually obligated to play certain songs like at their shows if there's some sort of cross promotion. Like people might request, oh, can you be sure you play Midnight in Harlem at this show? And then the band's like, sure, no problem, Derek will say. But is it ever like written down like in a contract? It's like, you must play this song, you must play Anyhow and Chevrolet 5 times at upcoming shows in these markets. I wonder if it's ever that like specific with band, maybe probably with like certain bigger bands or certain songs that have big promotional.
I know they did it at the one of the Ryman shows this year. They played Anyhow followed by Chevrolet. I think it was the Saturday night show, maybe, if I'm.
Yeah, you are right. You are right. They actually opened with those two. You're right, Garrett. They did do it a second time. You're right.
I remember being kind of like you, David, when they went into Chevrolet from Anyhow. I kind of reacted the same way. I kind of chuckled at it and was watching the band's faces too, and it was funny to watch them react and kind of, you know, look at each other and kind of smile like, haha, we pulled a good one. And
I bet it's
everybody. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I bet it's like a casual agreement between like the business partner and the band. Like, oh yeah, we'll play it a few times. Can you guys play that a few times? Sure, we'll play it a few times, rather than like, you know, a serious thing. I want to let you continue in a second, Garrett, but I want to bring in Daniel Marino, who's here as well, who's gonna join in the chat. How we doing, my friend?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me on.
What's up, for sure. Where are you at?
I'm right outside of Philadelphia at home.
Nice. I want to go back to Garrett because he was saying something about Chevrolet or the show or something. Where were you going?
Oh, I was just gonna say it was unique when they did that because, you know, you could see the band was, you know, reacting to it and kind of smiling and, laughing at it, and kind of the crowd was kind of in the same mood. So everybody would just kind of felt the same way about, that combo that, everybody, if you're not really a TTB fan, you probably knew anyhow from the commercial. And then, maybe somebody was in there and they're like, oh, well, haha, yeah, this kind of makes sense because they went into a song about a Chevrolet after they played the song that was in the commercial. So, I mean, I don't know how often people that may not know them go to a show like the Ryman, but maybe they knew anyhow, and then they kind of caught the inside joke with Chevrolet at the end of it.
That got me thinking, though, what you just said. I don't know if they're going to go to this show like right away to the Ryman, but if people do get exposed to music in all different ways from all different places, like, so if someone hears that song and you hear it a couple of times during football season, during commercials, during the, before they go to the breaks or whatever, like, you can get, the band could get new fans from that. They hear, what's that song? Oh, let me look at that band. Let me Shazam it. Let me check them up on Spotify. And then before you know it, you're like a fan, you're going to shows and all that. So I'd be curious, like, how many new fans, because this band is constantly getting new fans. And just from talking to you guys over the years, like, all of us came in at different points. So it's like, that just goes to show, like, anyone could come in at any different time and have as much passion for this band as we all do. But Larry, where do we go next in terms of?
I guess we could transition to, just to keep the ball rolling. I guess late spring, we can say that we went to Jazz Fest, right? And Dave, I believe you attended Jazz Fest.
I did.
And
I was at Jazz Fest, kind of more of a maybe straight and narrow set, but it was great. They did Gilded Splinters in New Orleans, which was cool. But it was great to see them in front of such a big crowd. I think they were having a really good time. They sounded great out there in the big field at the racetrack there at Jazz Fest. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and they played Passaquan, which stumped me because I was like, "There's no way they're going to play that kind of song in a festival with 70 minutes," and I was wrong. I had to eat my words on that. Derek's like, "Here you go. I'm gonna go ahead and give you the full kit and caboodle here." So
is it is that the I was gonna say, is that the thought you think, as much as that it's just like, hey, we love this song, this represents us in some ways, especially, and we want to play that. Like, what maybe, because maybe I imagine maybe there was some debate, should we play Passaquan? Because it's a question, or do you want to play this song at a festival? So I wonder what put it over the top versus replacing it with 2 or 3 songs, which is totally understandable too.
Sure. I mean, I think it just comes down to, in the moment, obviously they prepare the set list beforehand, but I think it's just whatever he's feeling at the time. I mean, a long song like that can be lost on a big crowd, especially in the daytime, but if he's promoting whatever he wants to play, and he feels like it's worthy of delivery in such a large crowd. I think also Jazz Fest, there's so many music fans, if you will, in the audience. It's not just a festival. I think people from all over the world come there just primarily to hear the intense music that's played, and so to deliver it and to deliver it well, I mean, I think it was an honor, in a way, for these people to hear that.
I think you just answered my question in some way, because it's Jazz Fest, from what I understand and know and what you're describing, it is definitely a diverse festival of different music, and the music is, obviously put up to the forefront as much as at any music festival. So I think Passaquan fits right in that way. That's because it's something different, and that Tedeschi Trucks Band can share. Like, I'm sure no other band played anything quite like Passaquan. I mean, if there are other blues rock bands or any other bands that played extended instrumental tracks or songs or something like that, or jams, like, I'm sure there was nothing quite like Passaquan played there.
I doubt it. I doubt it. I don't know, Dave, you would be the one. You were in the crowd.
I would say, I think, as a matter of fact, I think what's his name went on right before him. JJ moved over to his band.
Gary Clark Jr.
Yeah, Gary Clark Jr. was up on the stage there right before for TTB. So I'm sure there, Gary Clark did his thing, and yeah, he doesn't, no 18-minute instrumental or anything, but again, a lot of good blues, and was thinking that it was probably kind of cool about that JJ probably got to hook up with some of his old bandmates there at in New Orleans. I don't know if they had time to go out or do anything like that, but they were definitely, I'm sure, passing between one of them playing right before the other.
Yeah. Well, I think next we could talk about heading over to London. In May we have obviously you've done a whole podcast on the Jeff Beck tribute, but
Right.
It's worthy of mentioning, like, just what the takeaway is, and my perspective is that, not that it means anything, but I think what's really cool is that you have Derek and Susan, who in our eyes can do no wrong, but they don't have the status as the Rod Stewarts and the Eric Claptons and stuff on an international stage like that, and for them to be just kind of brought forth by this group of musicians, and an elevated level, to be able to not only play very complex on the fly guitar pieces by Jeff Beck, but also for Susan to kind of command a stage the way she did with Sky is Crying and all the other blues songs that she played. And I think that was really, really a kind of a notch in their belt, and what an honor.
I watched some of those videos, and I might be biased, but I thought Derek and Susan kicked everybody else's tail on that stage. When they played, there was so much more energy. I thought there was some lull in the crowd, and even Rod Stewart, I thought, made a little bit of a, kind of goofball of himself and some of the stuff that was going on. And when Derek and Susan were out there, it was serious tribute to Jeff Beck, and you could feel it. I mean, I felt it through the videos. So.
Yeah, I felt that too, and I don't know how biased I am and what degree my bias comes into play, but you could definitely feel the energy picking up, and I could even sense the musicians on stage, whether it be Eric Clapton or some of the others, even kind of deferring to Susan and Derek, both of them, both in her virtuosity with her voice, just acknowledging it and just letting that take over the show, and Derek's guitar as well, and even some of his band leading as well. You could see him kind of taking control a little bit of the show, because there was some extended jams and lots of guitars and lots of moving parts and people coming and going on the stage. So I think having Derek and Susan on the stage, besides their musical virtuosity up there, like just their calming influences, I think, had an effect on the show as well. And to see some of these other musicians react to Susan and Derek, because we follow the band every single show. Like Larry, I'm listening to every single archive.org show that gets put out there from beginning to end, not necessarily always in order, but I do hit every song ultimately. So we're very familiar with Susan and Derek's music, and I keep talking about how we're constantly in awe and even surprised by it and caught off guard by it in wonderful, fantastic ways that catch us off guard. But these other musicians who don't see or listen to maybe live Susan and Derek music, or watch every YouTube video and listen to every track that comes out, they're surprised too. They're not surprised, but they're in awe too. They become fans. I think they become fans.
Oh yeah, I do.
I don't know.
It's fun to see that.
I don't know if it was going down or something. There was something. They were all on stage, right? And there was a jam, and they were all on stage, and they each took leads. And again, I might be biased, but I thought Susan and Derek's two leads were head and shoulders above the rest. Go back and if you can find that on YouTube, go back and listen to that. And I don't know, maybe you can tell me I'm wrong, but Susan she shredded a solo when they were trading off, and it was impressive.
I think some of that is also, we almost have to give some credit to Tedeschi Trucks Band and what it is as well, because Susan and Derek, they'll always play to the song, to what the vibe is, to each other, to the feel, to the drums, to Brandon. They're very great they're great listeners, and they're not soloing just because it's my turn to. They're playing the song, and they're expressing feelings and things like that. So I think that, in addition to just their talent, pure talent, helps their sound, cut through is the term that I describe. And that's the term I always use when I see Susan and Derek playing with, especially more than one or two or three other guitar players, especially on stage, how their sound cuts through is something to see, something to hear.
Yeah. Well, I think it was a great tribute, and overall, I think, again, our stars shine the brightest, right? All right, so let's move on, and we could talk about, I guess, their pit stop in Florida after they landed. They rolled over to, I don't have my notes in front of me,
Daly's place, where usually they'd kick off Wheels of Soul, but as we know, we didn't have any of that this summer, but they did start their summer still at Daly's place. And as you wrote about, Larry, I mean, they pulled out a lot of new stuff, first time covers that they had never done before. And it was, again, Ann and I happened to be there, and just to hear some stuff for the first time and not know that it's coming. And I mean, like, for me, I mean, I grew up on the Allman Brothers, Wet Willie and stuff like that. And to hear the first couple of chords of Keep On Smiling, and I'm like, no freaking way. My favorite band is covering Wet Willie. I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me. And it was awesome. It was awesome. It was great.
I mean, I think they definitely pulled the wool over our eyes this summer with not only introducing new covers, but for the first 5 nights of the tour, we got a new cover, pretty much the way, almost a different song every night. And then it started sporadically becoming more of a set list, but which is typical with Wheels of Soul. But I don't think they've ever introduced so many new covers in one tour.
I'm jumping way ahead, thinking of if we even have time to preview what we might be coming ahead, but you're reminding me that we can probably expect a lot of new covers, or at least some new stuff in the set list in this year, just based on when the band has time off, when they start just something about even just starting a new fresh year. It just kind of lends itself to perhaps new music in that regard too. But go on.
Sure. I was just gonna say they're probably influenced by different things and different people during the between tours, and then they bring it to the table and say, can we play this? And if it works, it works,
Yeah. From what I understand.
I was going to say, I think they possibly, to fill the void, of the big rooms they played later in the year, it's possible they kind of went through a list of songs and saw what they could bring, what crowd reaction could really do with a Wet Willie song. It was popular in the 70s. Everyone's going to recognize it. That's your core audience, pretty much.
Us old people recognize it. That's for sure.
That's right.
Young people like Adam, he didn't know what the heck that was.
Do now.
Still now, right?
Now he loves the song, right?
Although I did pay homage to Capricorn Studios, and that's where where they recorded all that music originally? Yeah. So I have my Wet Willie story, my Wet Willie connection.
And hopefully people go back, like you mentioned before, about Freddie Hubbard with Mr. Clean. After I heard that, that's the first thing I did. The next day I was Googling it, and I was listening to the original version, and it just turns you on to different stuff. And then you can kind of go down the rabbit hole. And that's what I love about TTB when they do a cover. You research a little bit, and you never know what path it's going to take you down.
Yeah, Mr. Clean was a great one. I was at the Warner show when they played that, and that was just absolutely phenomenal. Stand Back into Mr. Clean. That was the highlight of the night for me.
Yeah, it's just you get exposed to so much new music, different music. It's just it's sustaining. I keep saying, and I keep saying, but this band has put out 5 albums. Obviously, I Am the Moon is several albums in itself. But between that and archive.org music, I have enough music just for like the rest of my life. If that's all I was able to listen to, that would not be so bad. So that's such a credit to this band that they put out such a diverse styles and catalog, but it's all TTB and it all works. But there's such a huge quantity of it, and I appreciate that too.
Yeah, the jazz numbers are always fun. You know, I remember a few years ago, it was Afro Blue with Shane too, and they released both of those in the live compilations that they do. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, Mr. Clean wasn't in the Best of Europe 22. I think they had Stand Back, but I don't think it was the year. It was with the Mr. Clean. It was just from that show that I've listened to that. But yeah, I feel like it's just perfect for Derek. It's just fun when they do like this, like big, like jazz jams.
I should dive back into the European recording that they put out. Was that like only available for their fans or something like that to download? I forget where it was, but
the Swamp Family, there were extra tracks. It was like it was longer. Yeah,
right. But like listening to that, I guess what would you call the soundboard professional recording versus, no offense to fan recordings, it's like, to hear Passaquan professionally recorded versus the fan recording is a little bit of a different experience and an incredible one too. But I'll listen to anything recorded by anyone of this band.
It's my only complaint with Tedeschi Trucks is that they don't release the soundboards for every show. I would buy all of them.
Yeah, that's our only complaint. I think as fans, we want more of everything and as cost effective as possible for everything. That's it. That's all we want. We want more, and we want to be able to afford it. That's all. I think that's really some of those things are out of their control, obviously. I from what I understand, Ticketmaster doesn't have a lot of fans, but we could do a whole episode about that some other time.
Sure.
Larry.
I was going to say, Dan, you said it really well, because one of the things I pulled away from the summer tour, I saw them in Richmond, and was the Bex Bolero out of I Want More. I think that combination for me stands out above all the other combinations. Now, that's just my personal take with I Want More, but it seems completely just interlocked in a way that the other ones are they've almost paused to the point where you're kind of expecting it.
That's a really fun one.
But the way that Derek just has brought that on, it just elevates that song to the next level. And and with the horns and it literally was like one of the best showstop endings I've ever seen with the band. By far. I think that was the greatest contribution of the summer, one of them at least, and I hope it stays. I can see it staying maybe another year, but they started slipping the Santana tune back into it, so I don't know. We may have seen it for the last time.
I like it when they surprise it. When you come, one night you might hear it with the Santana, you might hear
Soul Sacrifice.
I like this to be surprised, like when they dropped off Sugar Eve for a little while and they were going into the was it Crosby, Stills and Nash or something?
Helpless. Yeah.
And then they went back to this. So you never know which way they're going to go. I like to be surprised. You get into the where it's coming. It's coming after this. It's coming out. And then when they do something a little bit different, I'm like, hell yeah. Surprise me. And we got I think the second night in Atlanta, right there during the beginning of the summer, I think we got a one-time song from the whole tour of 2023, and Mark got to sing lead, come out front, and it's That's What Love Will Make You Do. And it was awesome. I mean, part of the encore, and I think it was the only time they did it all year. And but there is I don't know if it's archive or on YouTube or something, but there is a it's out there, and I highly recommend you check that out. That was a 3-song encore, and it was part of that, and it was really cool. Again,
was that your 100th? Was that your 100th show?
It was. What a surprise! But
so you don't want us just to listen to it to hear your name being mentioned?
No, I want you to.
Okay, I just want to clarify that.
That too.
It has nothing to do with the music, but it's all about.
what Adam said, there was 81 shows. That song, I think, was only played one time out of 81 shows. So we know what was played the most. I'm betting on that one played the least. So
well,
it's
some zero
pretty
times,
rare.
but yeah,
Pretty rare.
maybe the only one that was only played once. Yeah.
Well, maybe it was maybe it was just for you, Dave. Again,
No, I would say it wasn't on my bingo card, Larry. That's for damn sure.
He wears what songs he literally wears what songs he wants to heard on his sleeve, on his shirt.
That was definitely not on my list, but it was damn good. I'll tell you, it was. I mean, Mark, Alicia, and Mike. I mean, the singing on that was pretty freaking phenomenal.
Right,
they're the best.
Alicia,
Mike, and Mark. They're like the combination of their voices, obviously with Susan and Gabe too, but just the harmonies that they do are they're the best. Like even listening back sometimes, on the archive.org or on the app, it actually will go to a new show once one ends, which is a dangerous thing in some ways. But sometimes I'll hear TTB without Alicia, and besides her powerful leads, of course, and solos, like hearing her voice as an additional voice in the harmony totally changes the sound of TTB to the point where you forget not having that female harmony voice and that different tone added into it. It really adds so much flavor to TTB, which you don't always get in a lot of bands out there. I think that's where you get the soul element a lot into TTB, is the combination of the male and the female harmony vocals put it together. It separates it from some other acts that might be all male or all female, like harmony vocals sound. It's almost more spiritual. It's more there's more togetherness when you have the combination of the voices.
Totally agree. I was going to say the same thing. You have bands out there that have maybe, a couple of male, support singers, a couple of female, but to have combination where you've got both male and female is pretty spectacular.
There's something deeper and more spiritual is a word I am going to use about like having the coming together of those voices. It's special, and what these three do is, with their talent, it makes it that much more special for us to listen to.
A good example for that with a tune is "I Wish I Knew," which I love the Derek Trucks Band version of that tune, but I really feel like I saw them play at the Santander Arena and at Peach Fest this year. And I just really fell in love with that song. And just comparing the two, like I love Mike Madison. He's a phenomenal singer, but I feel like the backup singers with Tedeschi Trucks just put that tune on a whole nother level. And like really, like it's like a religious experience like for it. There's something about that song that is so beautiful. And there's something about the backup singers, Mark and Alicia, and Susan and Mike, of course, still contributing to it, that just makes it one of my absolute favorites now.
Yeah, the songs where leads are shared, especially those are just always, it's fun. It's just so engaging to follow. You're following the music, you're following the sound. Like sometimes, and with your watching the video or at a show, you're following it with your eyes. Like me and David have talked about how we don't even know where to look half the time, but like you're following it from singer to singer. It's like a whole narrative being told, and a baton being shared throughout a band. This band is something fun. The lead baton is shared. The attention, really, the attention. Everyone gets their shine, and then we always, as fans, post show, will analyze. Oh, I wish I would have heard a little more of XYZ. And I'm always thinking like, I think they did a pretty good job. And you end up with a little bit of everything.
Right. Well, that being said, you guys, Woman to Woman would have been one of the best examples of what y'all are describing. Not only do we get the introduction to a new song, but we get the lead harmonies from Mark and Alicia, and then all of a sudden, midway through, we get Susan emerging from backstage. It was a unprecedented cover, and the way they delivered it was kind of almost more theatrical than we're used to with TTB. Usually there are kind of a house lights on and off, and that's it, And then we won't bring up the whole backlighting issue, but I think woman to woman,
but you know,
was one of the unique things of the summer as well.
It was I was gonna say it's still tasteful, and I loved how they did it with the Susan coming out after a couple of verses from the other singers and vocalists, and then she comes out to the roar of the crowd. It really is a goosebumps moment as a fan. I'm sure if you're there, but just for me listening to when you hear that roar in the crowd, it's what's about to happen. And her first vocal notes are powerhouse notes as well. She's not coming in to a whisper, she's coming into a roar in her quintessential Susan powerful full style. So it's just a goosebumps moment. And then, another great choice by the band to do this one, woman to woman.
Yeah, I mean, the streams, the Red Rock streams were great to watch and to see that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was the first song and the first night, and it was great. That's how they started the whole weekend off, and the crowd was all into it.
I think with that too, I think the first time they did woman to woman and she wasn't out there right away, I know if I would have been in the crowd, I'd have been like, okay, this is different. Where's Susan? And I'd have been wondering that in the back of my mind, like, okay, I see everybody on stage is supposed to be there except for Susan. What happened? What's going on? And then when she would have walked out, I'd been like, okay, I get it now. But it would have thrown me for a few minutes there. I would have been kind of thinking, okay, did something happen? What's up with this?
Right.
And I was gonna say they have so many members that are so talented and can do so many different musical things. Like, maybe if Susan was unavailable or had to deal with something and she couldn't perform in that, Gabe, when Derek breaks a string, Gabe or Brandon's, step up and or whatever. So it's not like this. Not that Susan is obviously not irreplaceable, not replaceable. But for a song or for a verse, like, I could see why there might be some confusion. What's going on?
Well, just to put it out there, it was the first time they played it was Jacksonville, and their hometown, and I was there. And
they started the show with it.
Yeah, they started the show with it, and she came out, after about 2 minutes of the song. But I mean, I guess there could have been some people with some doubt as to whether Susan was going to be there, but I didn't really have that doubt that she was coming out. But I think it's a great, the way it all set up, and she comes out, like you say, she belts out her woman to woman line, and it's when you have 5 great singers, you can't slough off because people can notice, right? I mean, you got 5 powerhouse singers. Everybody's got to bring their game, and they do. It's just iron sharpens iron, right? It's just when they go around, it's just anybody can take a lead.
That's what my point was before a little bit when talking about Susan and Derek kind of representing themselves, and even TTB at the Jeff Beck tribute. Like, they've been sharpened by TTB. They're not just going out there with like the experience of like their own talents or whatever that they've had over the years. They're going out there with all the experience that they've had from TTB. So they know what it's like to play in a jungle with 10 other people on stage, let alone there was even more than that, right? Like, how many people were on stage for the Jeff Beck tribute?
Right.
As many, maybe. At times.
They're used to being surrounded by A-listers, and a lot of them, right? So they know how to bring it every night, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it's so true. I mean, we're talking about the different covers, and everybody. I mean, who doesn't love Mike? I mean, he could sing lead every song, and I'm on board. But that Heartbreaker, just awesome. I mean, love him doing Heartbreaker. Yeah, somebody's got most of the Feel So Bad. So I had not seen them. I had not seen them do that live until this summer, and that quickly became one of my favorites of the summer. I loved it.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved the cover of Heartbreaker. Mike Madison is perfect for that song, and that was just like a blast at Peach Fest, blast at Madison Square Garden. I hope they keep that one in the rotation.
Yeah. It's a good one for sure.
Definitely very powerful with the horns and everything. And Adam, that's kind of your world with the Stones. What was your take on that? Where you're like, okay, we're gonna do this, or is it like
I feel like that
well?
was a Mick Taylor song, or at least I know he's played a lot of the early live versions of that song for the Stones. So it's very sort of iconic, his guitar, even in my mind. But Derek, he gives a nod to what Mick Taylor did and adds his own Derek style to it as always, and it just makes it their own, and it's just super powerful. Like it's as intense and powerful as anything, anytime the Stones, I think, do the song or have done the song or the original recordings. But we say that about every cover that TTB puts their finger on and their heart and soul into. Like they take what the band, they take what the song is, capture the spirit of it, capture the essence of it, honor the song, and then add their own, but at the same time, without being over the top or showy, but at the same time being super powerful and expressing themselves and not showing off, but showing their skills and what they can do and their, what their musical abilities are. And it's amazing to see, amazing to hear. Yeah. So Derek did a great job on that too.
I would totally agree. So, I think, like you said, Derek, he pays tribute to, the essence and where it comes from, but then he does his thing to it as well. And what I've gotten into the last, I don't know, month or so, just kind of a little downtime. And I spend a lot of time walking, and I'm always listening to either your podcast, Adam, or I'm listening to music. And I've dove in a lot to 1970 and 71 Allman Brothers. A lot of old live stuff, some quality better than others. But I just kind of went back and wanted to hear some Dwayne live stuff, Dwayne and Dickie, and just kind of see where Derek kind of, and I still, again, even if I go back and listen, Derek moves me more than any guitarist I've ever listened to. Okay. He moves me more, this best, I don't know about best, but it moves me and makes me feel a certain way. And just kind of going back, if I urge all you go back and listen to like some 70, 71, not the Fillmore East that's maybe been treated a little. Go back to something that a fan has recorded. There's one from a warehouse in New Orleans. I think there's one from Fillmore West. There's a couple of real old ones, and it's pretty cool to hear some of that early stuff, and you kind of hear some of what Derek paid tribute to and where he's saying. And I think about where Dwayne might have been, if he hadn't passed at 24. I mean, if he had, 25 years or 40 years at his craft, right? I mean, when you think about it, Dwayne had so little time with his craft, and he was just so well revered and respected with so little time. And Derek with a much broader, time to expand and develop. It just continues to blow my mind. And I say I'm thankful to live and listen to this type of music when Derek's alive. I was a little bit too young to catch Dwayne when he was alive. I wasn't going to shows at 9 and 10. I didn't catch my first shows till 13, and he was unfortunately already passed.
Yeah, no, that is so well said. Well, you're saying I appreciate all of that. I'm right there with you with everything. That's where I was even going to steer the conversation as we were talking about like what Derek does and what this band does broadly, but what Derek does, like what the band does is they take their covers and they capture the spirit and then make them better, so to speak. And that's kind of like in a lot of regards what Derek and Dwayne, I think, have been like how fans look at it. He can do everything Dwayne has done and has learned everything Dwayne has learned. And then he just takes that and adds to his own Derek Trucks originality to it on top of that. And we're allowed to say things like this because I keep coming back to how Greg Allman basically said that, you know, Derek is Dwayne reincarnated. So if the guy's brother said it, like, we're allowed to continually make these. I mean, it's just it is amazing. Like all the those like synchronicities in the universe, with Susan being born on the day Layla was released, and all these weird.
And I don't think there's any
universe.
I don't think it's you know, by happenstance that the Allman Brothers did have a pretty big lull, right? They had a pretty big lull, went through a number of guitarists and everything. And for me, when Derek and Warren got together, it really was a whole new kind of rebirth of the Allman Brothers from what it was, like I'm saying, in the 1969, 70, 71, 72, from there to what happened, you know, late 90s when Derek and Warren got together. I mean, it just seemed like their quality was of what the quality was, you know, 30 years before or something. It's really cool to hear that, where there's a lot of Allman Brothers stuff in the, you know, the 80s, early 90s that was maybe not of the quality that was before and after.
Right, and I think there's a lot of fans, and obviously there's everyone who's been connected with that band, I would say, is super duper talented. But the fact that lineup lasted that long with just the Derek Warren lineup, like, that just says something in itself. The fact that the band had, you know, not got back to, but had some amount of stability, at least with the two guitar players. Like, I think that speaks volumes, let alone obviously the talent, you know, with Derek and Warren, and the chemistry between them. That also speaks for itself. But
I think Derek was in the band for 15 years, and I think Dwayne was in the band for less than 4.
Right.
Wow. So the first concert I ever went to was Allman Brothers with Derek and Warren, and I've recently went back and listened to some of the albums that they put out. They have a live album and a studio album that they did when they were both in the band. And it is really cool to go back and listen to that stuff. I actually was really bummed that I couldn't make it to Boston when Warren did the first garden party with them, because I feel like that must have just been really special time.
The 3 best songs I heard all year. And I was at 21 TTB shows, a lot of concerts last year, and I was at Madison Square Garden as well. But those 3 songs that Warren and Derek, I mean,
Into the Mystic, Dreams, and Blue Sky.
The hair on my arms stood up. I mean,
sure.
It was like, it just was. I mean, pretty much a couple of tears came on my cheeks. I mean, I was just, it was musical heaven. I mean, it was, and to see the two of them, and is it Sue Sanderson? She has video of those 3 songs. If you haven't seen it, get that off of YouTube. And to see Derek and Warren get so close together and playing, and it was musical heaven. I was absolutely, totally blown away. It beat, I had never heard Layla live, right? And that was amazing at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Those 3 songs, probably some of the best 30 or 35 minutes that I've heard in a long time on a stage.
Yeah, there's something special about them together. Yeah.
I think it's one of those. It's for me, like, I guess, like a personal, whatever, iconic, or not a personal, but like what's on the list of like sort of iconic moments for live moments for TTB. For me, is Into the Mystic with Derek and Warren. I put that right up there with like them with Susan at the White House doing "I'd Rather Go Blind," or with some of the lock-in moments, or even some of the even like Kofi and Susan singing together moments. Or the Layla, you know, Trey and Derek Layla moments, like some of those really big live like TTB moments, like TV appearance, whatever it is you want to say, like that with Warren and Derek playing with TTB, and then like the Susan, you know, chipping with a little more vocal at the end. It's just such a again, like a goosebumpy special moment, like. that song.
Yeah,
Has
their
Government
guitar,
Mule
their
ever?
guitar interaction at the end of Into the Mystic, that guitar interaction, the
Yeah, I
last
was gonna
5 minutes
say
of that
that
song.
jam
Oh
at the
my
end,
gosh.
and then to drop Blue Sky after that, you're almost like already too elevated at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? It's they can't follow themselves. How do you
No, they
follow
can't.
yourself?
Has
Oh,
Government
David,
Mule ever toured with them? I feel like that would just be a perfect
Oh,
double bill
I
with the
don't
two
think
of them.
I
Yeah.
don't know that
I
they
don't.
have toured as TTV and Government Mule together.
Yeah.
I don't
Let's
know
They
that
hope
play
in
they
the
long.
future. That'd be a good
Mule,
one.
I
Yeah.
Mule
like
plays
that.
Mule plays long sets, right? I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So it
how
would
would
be
that
hard
even
for
work?
them. Yeah.
Right.
They're almost on
Hey,
the same,
hey,
they'd almost draw the same crowd. So
there's nothing wrong with
Oh
4
yeah, it has
hours
to
of
be a
that
lot of
music in
overlap.
my
Yeah.
I'd be traveling all over to see that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not an opener. It's a double bill.
it'd
Right,
just
As
it's
be
you
a
a
double
said.
double
Double
bill.
bill.
bill. Yeah.
I saw, what was it? Widespread Panic, the Allman Brothers on the same bill a couple of nights years ago. And that was a fantastic. And they just swapped back and forth who would open the show.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
also
I've seen
saw
other bands do
Santana
that.
and Bob Dylan do the same thing, and Paul Simon and Bob Dylan. You can do it, but it's it's a little tricky.
Sure.
David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar toured together. Did something like that, right?
Well, yeah.
Without
David, I
fans,
wanted to
Eddie.
make your comment about the Allman Brothers, though. I finished Alan Paul's book about 3 weeks ago, or no, about 2 weeks ago, and it really sheds a lot of light on that early years. Just obviously, it touches on it briefly because the focus is on the later years, 73, 74, and 75. But the early development of Allman Brothers solely on Dwayne just trying to find his sound, bringing the studio, being a session musician and trying to find a band that would be able to jam and then also put out, listenable music to the audience, because people always said, oh, the Allman Brothers are scruffy and they just like to play. Well, that's what the audience wanted to hear, right? They didn't care about the Sha Na Nas of the world at that point. But I wanted to point out that it's amazing how long we had Greg, and reading that book, Alan really points out that Greg and Dwayne had very extensive, recreational habits, and both of them had near-death overdoses, and it was a very I don't know how to put it, but they gave us a lot, and for what we have, we should cherish even more, because it could have happened at any point. And I'm just so grateful that 70s rock style lifestyle, it doesn't exist, and TTB is so mature and focused about the music, and they're grounded, they're older, they've kind of gotten that all out of their system, and so we have nothing to look forward but just upbeat, positive music. It's great.
Well, I think it's interesting. I need to read that book, Larry. And
you really do.
But you think about like TTB, and I think we get what we're hearing, right? We get the reverence of what we're hearing, and then we're lucky to be, in that time and space. And I was listening to that early Allman Brothers, and I'm like, do those people know what they were getting? Like,
I always ask myself that.
Yeah, I'm listening like to 1970, and they're playing a 28-minute mountain jam, which had not even been recorded. They're doing a 28-minute jam that these people who are not traveling to see shows, right? They're sitting there 28 minutes hearing this jam that they have basically no idea what it is, right? They've never come across it. It's not on any vinyl. There was nowhere they could see, but yet they were into that for 28 minutes of them, just giving that, listening to the Atlanta Pop Festival. That's another great one from 1970. The Allman Brothers actually played twice at that 3-day festival. They actually did two. They got to play twice. Wow. I mean, it just seems like they were so just well revered in such a short period of time, bringing and again, a lot of it was covers. They only had 2 albums out. Really, before Dwayne. Two studio albums before he passed. So there wasn't
Right.
a whole lot of their original stuff. And what they were doing was, it's kind of like what TTP does with their covers. The Allman Brothers took those covers just exponentially. And I think
Right.
TTV, Adam, as you've always said, that what they do to their covers, again, it kind of makes it hard to go back and listen to the original, right?
It's just it's a totally different. It's like a different. A lot of them could be different songs. The originals. That's like oh, that's a different song in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Well, moving this along, I guess we can push on through August. In the calendar here, we've got Trey inviting Derek on stage at the Saratoga Performance Arts Center for their Vermont flood victims relief concert, and Fish fans got treated to, I think, 53 minutes of Derek interweaving his talents with a band that didn't need it, but they harmonized perfectly. And me being a long-term Fish fan, listening to that and being obviously a huge Tedeschi Trucks fan, it was the convergence of two amazing things. I don't know really how else to put it in words. I loved listening to Derek play the songs that I loved from Fish. And so, I know this isn't a Fish podcast, but I want to at least mention one song in particularly, the song called First Tube, which is mostly an instrumental. And the basically song goes through a crescendo that just generally builds and builds and builds. And then it kind of elevates to this huge moment. But the whole time, Derek is not only, I don't know if he practiced the song beforehand, but he just instantly, within 10, 15 seconds of the song, he picks up the lead and just takes it onto his own. And then he's the one pushing the song up and up and up higher. So you really have to go back and listen to it. And I do a really poor job of describing it, but it was a wonderful interaction, and it gave Fish fans like myself another opportunity to see how Derek can be like completely thrown into a mixture where he doesn't have a composition in front of him, where he doesn't know the parts. He has to figure it out on the fly, and he did that incredibly well and was able to improvise, not just kind of noodle around like, stop, here's your part, which is very standard in the blues rock genre if everyone takes a solo. This is truly pushing the other musicians at a rate and tempo that very few other bands can play at, like when you're just kind of stepping it up. So I thought it was fantastic. I don't know if anyone else had any opinion about that.
I did. I might have listened to it. My son is a huge Fish fan, so I'm sure he definitely got off on that. But it made me think about, and Garrett probably might have been there, the 3-night run at the Ryman. He went right across the street to the Bridgestone Arena and sat in with Billy Strings. And instead of relaxing and taking a 20-minute break with his band, he's jamming across the street.
I pulled out a map.
I was going to bring that up, David.
When I recapped that episode, I pulled out a map showing his route.
The golf cart trace. Yeah, it's amazing how many musicians they play with. This year.
Dave Matthews Band. They did. I don't know what time of the year that was, but they sat in. I
forgot to mention that.
The Watchtower is just a killer with Susan. Awesome,
right.
awesome.
Right.
They're about to do the Dead Ahead Fest too. I can't wait to hear the recordings from that. Here at Derek and Susan on a bunch of Dead tunes. It's gonna be
looking ahead.
Be amazing.
Friday night that Derek is playing with Mickey Hart's band. That should be, I think, the most interesting part. Obviously, Isaac played with Mickey Hart and his Planet Drum ensemble, but it'll be interesting to hear that kind of world music. Derek hasn't really dipped into that as much, or brought that to the stage, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I'm
sure
I wish you could just kind of webcast that one episode. Not sure I'd enjoy paying a bunch of money for the whole weekend, but
Yeah.
And then
I hope they release, soundboard recordings. I think they probably will, though. The Dead music is usually good for that, where, like you'll be able to buy kind of everything. But yeah, I hope so anyway. There'll be audience recordings if not.
I do know a couple of TTB fans that are going. I do know a
Cool.
couple going down there. So we'll see what they have to say about that. But that'll be really cool. I mean, they did sit in a little with Willie Nelson, right? They played a couple of nights with Willie Nelson in September.
That's right.
I mean, they collaborated with a lot of people. I mean, David Hidalgo got up and did "Why Does Love Got to Be So Sad?" one of those nights. I mean, love.
That was Charlotte.
David and Derek is also a hell of a. Lucas Nelson sat in again at the Ryman this year on Leaving Trunk. I mean, they collaborated with a lot of people this year. I thought it was great stuff.
Ziggy Marley.
Oh yeah, that's
Marley.
Oh yeah.
I did not get to see one of those shows. I'm very envious of those that got to catch that.
Yeah, I was a little bit bummed at Peach Fest that Ziggy didn't come out with them for their set. They played right before, but yeah, they didn't.
Yeah, I saw
play together.
Richmond show before the Peach Fest, and same thing. It was the first show of the tour, and I kind of knew that if they were going to be collaborating, it'd be later on, when they had a chance to kind of interact. But I think the story behind that's pretty neat. They were behind before the show or in the stage room, and Derek was noodling around with it, and he caught ear of it in the hallway kind of situation, and he sat down with them, and they just or maybe he teased it at maybe played the instrumental in Idle Wind, and it caught fire, and Ziggy Marley wanted to say, hey, let's play this tomorrow night or whatever. So I think it's kind of rad, regardless of what the backstory is. But, those roots, those grassroots of things like that, that's just how they emerge. And then it becomes this, thing on stage that I think is very special.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You can see the appreciation that they have for each other when they bring out, somebody like Trey on the stage, or if Derek sits in, because if you look at Trey's face when he's watching Derek, he's smiling the entire time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You can tell he looks at Derek like we all do. I mean, he looks up to him as one of his guitar playing idols. I mean, he said in several interviews, he's like, man, when Derek's on stage, I just love standing there watching him. And you see that with more people. I mean, several years ago, Wheels of Soul, Blackberry Smoke was on tour with them, and Derek and Susan brought Charlie Starr out, and they did, I think it was Key to the Highway in South Carolina. And I mean, just to hear the three of them take turns and just go back and forth, and they're watching each other, and Derek and Susan are watching Charlie, and Charlie's watching both of them. I think what makes it so good is the appreciation that all of them have for one another when they bring somebody out like that, and they're they just vibe. I don't even know how to describe it. It's otherworldly, I guess, is how I can put it. Whenever they throw, I mean, I love TTB when it's just them, don't get me wrong, but they add somebody else to the mix that's not normally there, and it just takes it to another space. And it's like, wow, I didn't know they could go this direction. And it's always incredible to see what they do with different people on stage with them.
Yeah, it's like your favorite guitarist's favorite guitarist. That's
right.
Derek
They all
exactly.
They're all right. They all become fans. Even Derek, they're all music fans too, and they become fans of each other, and they're reminded that they're music fans when they play with each other. And like I keep saying, I think some of these musicians, they don't listen to as much TTB as we do. They don't see Derek and Susan either, be it live or watching as many videos of them as we do, because they're focused on their own careers and lives and tours and music and writing and recording and all this stuff. So when they see TTB live, especially up close and personal, in person, and you're playing with them, obviously that's a very special thing. Playing music together with someone, like it can probably catch some of the other musicians off guard how awesome Susan and Derek and TTB are, whereas we're not spoiled, isn't the right word, all not spoiled, because we're talking about how much we appreciate it, but we are we kind of know what to expect a little bit more, and we're ready for it a little bit more than maybe even professional musicians are, who just don't get enough TTB, get as much TTB as we do.
Yeah, I mean, I
Right.
saw them for the first time pretty much blind, where I was at Locken in 2018. I was there for Dead and Company, and we showed up early, and my wife and I were just blown away. We were like, wow. And like, so I kind of remember having that moment where I was just like, that is something special right there. I remember the song too was Shame. I'm pretty sure it was the first song I heard them do, and that's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good introduction to get.
Oh yeah, that'll get you.
Yeah.
Every
You're
time.
talking about your favorite guitar. Going back to the Warren and Derek thing in Boston, if you go back and look at the video towards the end of Dreams, you will see Warren go, wow. He's watching Derek towards the end of his lead on Dreams, and Warren goes, wow. How many times has he shared the stage with him? And it's still a wow moment. I mean, that was, to me, it was so cool. I love going back and looking at that, and I'm just like, I mean, he's still blown away by the what he can pull off. It's just like,
yeah.
I mean, if Warren's still impressed, I mean, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
It's all about the music for everyone, and they're into it as much as we are, and that's like part of the whole like fun connection is just like how much passion we all share, and like no matter if you're a fan who plays guitar or sings yourself, or you're a professional connected to the band, making posters, being a photographer, representing TTB, like there's just so much like passion. Like that's what I noticed just like talking to so many people about this band. Like the passion is what like overlaps and connects everyone. Like I can't tell how long someone's been a fan of TTB just from hearing them talk about the band, like just in a random conversation. It's just that we all just love this music so much, and it's powerful.
Whether you followed them for 10 years or 10 months, you get that bug and that passion, and
exactly.
It gets into you, right? It gets into you. That doesn't take 10 years to feel it.
No,
right?
And it does take 10 years or take longer for some other bands or some other music. But even TTB is smart about how they ease us into their own music by the way they introduce music to us on the road, be it the new covers, or I was obviously going to comment on the method and the way that they release the I Am the Moon music is just like smart.
Right.
Well, Adam, you deserve a lot of credit for that too, with what you do for this show. Really
I
appreciate you.
that.
Yeah, no,
Thanks,
it's a lot. It's a lot of fun watching, being able to watch this podcast and watch other fans talk about the music because
it definitely unites us all.
Yeah, it creates connection. A little more of a community.
I'm just doing it for me because I want to live vicariously through all of you. Because, like I'm saying, I can't get to
you
all
got to
of the
do
shows.
something if you're not going to go to a freaking show.
Yeah, I know. If you live on the West Coast,
but you're
right.
gonna be at the Beacon, man. So
I will be at the
Beacon.
I will be at the Beacon, and I'm hopeful for some West Coast dates this year. I mean, I think
you guys have got to get dates this year.
I think either maybe before or after Australia. I think this year they're going, so maybe make a stop on the way out there, on the way back, or something. Throwing it out there.
A second leg of the summer tour, I think.
Right. Yeah.
One other topic not that we're stopping anytime soon, because I love talking about this, but a kind of a new thing for them was opening up for the Eagles, right? To get in front of somebody else's crowd, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Is kind of at least different, that from where I sit, it was kind of different, and we were fortunate to go to one of those shows, and it was
cool.
It was pretty cool. I was hoping that maybe Joe Walsh, might sit in or something. I know he and Derek went back a ways or whatever. I thought that would have been cool to maybe see that, but to have them open up for, in Phillips Arena, I guess I don't know, State Farm Arena, I guess it's called now. It changes every year with somebody putting the money up, but there had to be 15, 20,000 people in there for the Eagles, and you could just. You could see the appreciation just ramping up with every song that TTB played. And I think they only did 8 songs each night. And I mean, they packed it in, and it was phenomenal to see people that didn't know them, just kind of see that response. It was, for someone that's a diehard, it's pretty heartwarming to see that.
That's one of the things I always like to hear about on the podcast. And I think you probably, David, maybe you guys as well, have talked about, being at TTB shows with people who are at their first TTB show, be it your friend or your family member, or just the person you're sitting next to, eavesdropping and finding out someone, else's, first show. Those kinds of experiences are always fun to like live vicariously through. And there's a handful of like that, those reaction videos on the internet, on YouTube, of like first time listening to Midnight in Harlem from someone who's not familiar with TTB, and they're like blown away by that, or Any Day, or Dreams, or whatever, Elizabeth Reed, whatever the band is playing. That's right. It's all great stuff.
Yeah, Susan mentioned in an interview that they literally landed from Japan and like flew directly to Atlanta. Like they didn't even go home. So those Eagle shows were obviously, you talked about it, unplanned, but last minute things. But for them to be able to perform well, on the fly in a new setting in front of 15,000 people, jet lagged, being on, coming from Japan, I can imagine. That's pretty impressive. Again, it speaks to their professionalism as professional musicians. Not many bands
Chris
can
Stapleton
do that.
too. Been doing Chris Stapleton's show,
Yeah,
so that's kind of another one.
Yeah, this summer, right? That'll be a good show.
Yeah, all the way in Texas, long way to go.
Yeah,
I would if it was closer.
One thing I wanted to mention is kind of outside of music is the poster art has been incredible this year, more so than in past years. I think they've made a lot more effort to bring unique artists together and do foils and all kinds of things. So I think that's kind of elevated a little bit from the fans' perspective.
Yeah, a lot of good posters. We got more than we can fit on the walls right now here at the Flamm House. So we got some work to do to find some more space here, because there's a lot of good posters, a lot of good stuff we picked up.
Yeah,
for sure.
I still have mine in a tube from the spring.
Yeah, it's the problem with posters for me too. It's getting
they're
framed.
under my bed. they're under my bed and they're all where they belong. No, just kidding.
Yeah. Well, Adam, you want me to end up the year here with?
Keep going. We
already talked about.
I'll stay as long as people want to stay. It's all good.
Well, I actually have to go, but I wanted to mention that obviously we talked about September being the big month with the 2 shows in Boston Gardens and Madison Square Gardens. I don't know what more we can say about those 2 shows other than they were phenomenal, and I feel like they not only brought a stage that we typically find comfort in a theater setting to Madison Square Gardens, and they brought on and Boston Gardens, where these huge arenas were completely full with not only the music but the lights, the experience. I wasn't there, but again, watching the videos, I don't think it felt like anything was missed. I think they did a production. They elevated their own production, so I think they're able to put on a show like that. And I just hope it's not a routine thing that they want to do arena tours. But if they do, I'll be there regardless. But hats off to them and the production team and everybody.
Yeah, Dan, I thought the sound was great in the big building.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think it suffered at all.
It was great. And it was interesting too, because of the way that they did the, later in November, they did some of the smallest shows with the Vogel. So I was at Madison Square Garden. I was also at the Vogel show, and it was like the contrast.
The
Fireside. The contrast between those 2 venues though was like crazy. It's like
that's also a testament to the talent of this band, that they could play such a small scale thing in such a such a large scale thing. And what you were talking about, David, we've talked about this multiple times, is that playing the arena show, although it's not as intimate, so to speak, even though TTB makes everything they do, a fairly intimate experience. It gave a lot of fans a newer perspective, because you were talking about, the side, being on the side of the stage and getting that wider angle, but being able to see all 12. But all 12 from the side is a new experience for TTB fans, a lot of TTB fans.
I got to sit down front in Boston, and then we were on side kind of stage on the lower level there for Madison Square Garden, and it was a whole different perspective. It was cool, and also it gave me a great view of the crowd, right? So I could see the crowd in front, down on the floor, and it was really a perspective that I'd never seen really at a TTB show. So it was really kind of cool.
That's true. No matter when you're in a theater show, you are seeing a lot of backs of heads.
Yeah.
Depending on where you are versus
just look
faces.
over and see everybody. You see everybody standing, the smiling, the clapping, just everybody, vibing. And it was really, it was a cool experience. I was, I was leery when they first announced them, but I was two of the best nights I had in 2023.
Yeah, I thought the atmosphere at Madison Square Garden was just great. You could just feel it when you were in there, that everybody was having a great time. It was a phenomenal show. I really liked what they ended with too, the Sing a Simple Song and I Want to Take You Higher.
Right.
That was that was a really fun way to end that show. Everything about it.
My wife's favorite cover of my wife's favorite cover of TTB. So that was pretty exciting to get that. Yes, that was awesome, Dan. It was great. I
was at the Vogel show. I know I've talked to Adam. I think I talked to you about it over comments on Facebook that, they played a lot of older songs. And that was the last show, I guess, they played of the year. And I wonder if that, maybe signals a little bit of what to expect in 2024. If they're going to bring out, some of the old, maybe we're going to hear a little bit less of the I Am the Moon stuff, a little bit more of the older stuff, which I don't know. I'm like almost conflicted on that, because I feel like there's a lot of tracks on I Am the Moon that they didn't really play that much. Like, I really like All the Love. And
I was going to say, we got that at the Fox in Atlanta one night.
All the Love.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Hold that line.
Hold that line. Yeah. Like Another Day. Like, there's a lot of these tunes that they played like less than 10 times. Yeah. Somehow. Yes. Yeah.
I'm just shocked that somehow it doesn't take like every 2 or 3 night rotation. I don't know how that's not like someone,
it will. It might.
The record producers going like, play that song. Yeah.
I got it somehow at the Beacon 2022. I remember one of those shows.
Yeah.
I mean, All the Love is like 2 songs, right? You got Susan singing the first half, and then Derek they just go places the second half of that song.
I don't think that was intended to go that way, and they just kind of let it go. And I think Derek kind of went for it when the horns and stuff were. That's something I got out of my interview with my interview with Kebby. Kebby was talking about All the Love and recording that, and Derek kind of letting them go and having a lot of fun with that song, and then that being something that jumped out at him as, in recording the I Am the Moon songs, was especially the I Am the Love recording, which is special. Those are always fun, those sort of psychedelic type tunes.
Yeah. Daniel, that show you were at, was there, because there was one, might have been the one you were at towards the end, where there was nothing from I Am the Moon, right? Was that?
Yeah. That was the Vogel show. It was all.
It was all. I Am the Moon. That was kind of wild.
Yeah. So I remember, I forget where I heard it. Maybe it was you. Actually, I think it was you talking to somebody else on the podcast that was at the show. But I think you guys were discussing it, and you were saying that how it was the last show of the year. Maybe they were. It was just like, kind of makes sense. They kind of felt like playing some old, a set of some older songs, and it was great. Like they played. Yeah, like Don't Let Me Slide. I love that song.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'd never heard it live. It was great. He did a sick Idle Wind too. I think that was my favorite Idle Wind that I've ever seen. Derek's got, his guitar work on that is just unreal. There's just nobody that can play like that.
That's a lot of people. Seems like that's their favorite Tedeschi Trucks Band song. Like I keep saying,
that's a good one. Yeah,
Idle Wind, Idle Wind's my. A lot of people. That's a big
Top
one
5
amongst
for me.
bands.
Top 5.
Well, you know,
for
when
me.
you dive back in, Adam, as you and I do, we go back in and listen on archive, and you go back to an old Idle Wind, and you get the Kebby flute. I mean the
Kebby or
flute. Kofi
Yeah.
flute. Oh man, it just gosh.
Melts you.
So, yeah,
that happens with
old version of that. Oh.
Yeah, that happens to me when I listen to all I need, and I hear that one has like a surprising Kofi flute. You don't think about it, and then he takes off with Derek, and they kind of go back and forth about it. And he did that in Crying Over You also with Mike's song back in the day. It used to be like 11 minutes long. You listen to it. Yeah. But guys, I got to say Happy New Year to all y'all, and I hope for 2024 to bring you guys the health and happiness and lots of TTB. So I got to.
Oh, thank you for your time and the write up and everything.
No problem.
Good stuff all around. I got it pulled up here. We'll continue on. I think we're almost there.
Hope to see you at a show soon, Larry.
Yeah, I'll be at the 16th show at March 16th at the St. Augustine.
All right, I'll see you there. God willing, I'll see you there.
Have a great show.
Y'all have a good night.
Have a good night.
Got that one. Cheers.
Thanks, Adam.
Cheers. Oh, thank you. Yeah, good stuff from Larry and whatnot. Where we're talking about I am the Moon and the different songs.
Yeah. There's a couple that have only gotten a couple plays, right? I think Hold That Line's only been played once, right?
I think maybe more than once, but not more than 2 or 3. You could be right. I think I did see it once. Did they play that in Atlanta 2022?
They played at the Beacon. I was there for when they did Ascension in its entirety. So yeah, but there's definitely a lot of them. I mean, I think Another Day. I was looking some of them up, and there's a couple of them that they've only played a couple of times.
Another Day is the very last.
Yep,
the last of the last. Mm-hmm.
What are you looking for in Atlanta?
Yeah, so many good ones on there. Yeah, and then we had the obviously Trey was also at the garden party, and Nora Jones was another highlight from those shows. And then they went
the Tom
to
Petty song.
Yeah, and then
I'm a big Who fan, so The Seeker I thought was. I would have never guessed that, but
it was a fun time. Yeah,
I'm guessing that was a little maybe Trey influence there, but it was awesome. I loved it. So that was great. I was gonna say before I just want to give Gabe some love. I was watching a video the other day, and I guess when he opened a good bit, and Derek came out and added guitar to one of Gabe's songs. It was so awesome, but. I think I said something to Gabe one time, got a chance to say hello, and I was like, years ago, did you think you'd be, singing Allman Brothers songs with Derek Trucks? It's like, but he does it so well. I mean, it's just like
he's great, yeah,
so natural with him on the Allman Brothers songs. I mean, he's you've said it many a time, Adam. He's definitely added a lot to the band. He's a great addition to the band. He's super talented.
Yeah, I've been listening to Alex Leary. I know recorded one of recent recorded one of his shows. His trio, and I think it was in DC from like the 17th of December. And I've been just listening to that show over and over again. And besides like how awesome the music is, and the trio creates such a full sound. Like it's really fun to listen to like Gabe do his own show and sort of be the MC for the night. Like he's really charming, like just his interactions with the crowd and super humble as well. Just the way he comes across, like he puts on like a really good, fun, intimate, engaging show, and the music like it captures a lot of the music that I love and have loved over the years. Like you can hear the Beatles influences, and of course the TTB sound is in some of Gabe's songs as well, and the rock and the blues and I hear of course a lot of Billy Joel in there. This is the music that I grew up on. Long Island and all that, and all that. So like I hear that influence in his style and in his voice. So like there's a lot of familiarity and fun in what he does, and I'm going to continue to dive more and more down the Gabe rabbit hole. The problem is like I want to go through his entire catalog and just dive more into the archive stuff of Gabe's, but I end up just like, oh, let me just listen to this show like over and over again. I'm still listening. I get caught up listening to the same show over and over again. And then I get sidetracked trying to learn the songs on guitar and singing them myself. So like I'm trying to go through the catalog, but I'll just get sidetracked. But that's part of the fun is going down these rabbit holes and going down, getting sidetracked and going down these tangents within them, because it's part of, falling in love with the music, I guess. Yeah, big fan. Becoming a big fan for sure.
Yeah.
His songs off "I Am the Moon" are generally pretty good. I mean, I love "Ain't That Something."
Oh, those are
that's
very
a really
special.
Fun, that's a really fun song. "Ain't That Something." I'm really happy every time I hear that one.
And "I Am the Moon," the song.
Yeah, and he's the sole writer for that one?
I believe so. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah, great.
And he shares the lead vocals with Susan on that one.
Sure.
That's a special one. And
I know
Derek brings is something.
I came late, but you guys talked about shows you're planning to do in 2024. Adam, I know you're going to be at the Beacon, but
yeah, Garrett, Beacon. I'm Beacon, waiting on West Coast dates for now. Maybe. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. We'll see what else.
Yeah.
About you guys.
Ann and I have all 3 nights at the Beacon, so I'm fired up.
Cool.
No Beacon in 2022, 3. So ready to get back to the Beacon. It's always a great time up there.
I got a ticket for Friday night at the Beacon. Looking forward to it. Can't wait. I'm going to be at the second night in Atlantic City with Little Feet.
16th and 17th, I see Hard Rock Live in Atlantic City and the Beacon. And they're doing 3 at the Warner, March 5th, 6th, 7th, Maryland, the 9th of March. The Richmond, 12th and 13th, March, 14th, Durham. Then we got the St. Augustine show, then Australia, and a few more later into the summer.
Yeah, we're doing that 3-day festival down there in the Florida Panhandle.
Oh yeah, you're going?
Yeah, we're doing that.
Cool. Yeah.
Pretty psyched. I've been to that venue before. It's really nice. So
yeah,
excited to.
I want to go so bad. I don't know if I can swing it though, but yeah,
it's a good. We actually saw TTB there before.
Okay, cool.
I was gonna say, I know I've seen people asking about, I think Chicago and Ryman. Those seem to be popular cities that we're not sure. That could be maybe Chicago, Ryman, and I guess West Coast is kind of like the what's still kind of the question. So everything else is kind of like everyone out the Northeast is getting some, the South is getting some. This year the international is Australia, but will we get the Chicago, the Ryman, and the West Coast this year?
Would be the first.
Those are the questions.
This would be the first year since I've been following them that they would not be doing the Ryman. So I'm hoping that's not the case, because we always travel from Atlanta to the Ryman. It's not but maybe they skipped Chicago trying to save me some money this year, because we went to Chicago for the first time last year, and the crowd was amazing. It was. The atmosphere at the Chicago theater was first time there, and I was very impressed with the vibe in that room. So I told Ann, I said we got to try to check that one out again.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna get. Obviously, the band has said that they want, would like to slow down with the dates a little bit, but there's nothing announced after June 15th. Like there's nothing, so I think we're gonna get some more dates and some more cities.
We've got
soon enough.
We've got a Brandon Boone's doing a show, one of the blues bars here in Atlanta, coming up the beginning of February. I think it's Brandon Boone and Friends. He did one last year, and it was awesome. I mean, he had I think it was about a 9-piece band, and they were amazing. It was a lot of local Atlanta guys, and it was fantastic. So we're excited to go see that coming up. So
I would really like to see a Mike Madison solo tour.
Yeah, I heard he might be working on some new music.
Really?
That's what I
Okay,
heard.
cool.
That's what I heard, but
Yeah, I read this past year. I listened to his solo stuff and I really loved it. You know, Afterglow and You Can't Fight Love are both two amazing albums. I love his version of Midnight in Harlem too. It's like I almost like it as much as the Tedeschi Trucks version. You know, it has a very different quality to it. You know, it's more minimal. It's the singer songwriter type thing. But I would love to see him do a show.
about 5 years ago, Daniel, he opened up for Steve Earle here at a small place in Atlanta, and he did Midnight in Harlem on an acoustic guitar, and it was
Awesome.
it was fantastic. He did do a little something out at West Georgia College, which is about an hour or so west of Atlanta. He did a thing where he talks and plays a little bit and everything. We went out and saw him do that. It was phenomenal. I mean, he talks about the blues and the history.
Yeah, he's a serious scholar. I have a copy of his book. I haven't read it yet.
He's a Harvard man, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Ivy League.
So yeah, love to see him get out and do some more things. Again, we've got a lot of those guys in the Atlanta area. I'm always searching to see if they're doing anything local. You know, anything local. I actually saw Falcon on the drums. He sat in with some guys New Year's Eve. Got to see him banging on the skins with some local Atlanta guys. New Year's Eve was kind of cool. And and they actually played Chevrolet that night.
Oh, cool.
That's fun.
That was kind of cool.
That's fun.
I said, y'all know any TTB? And Falcon goes, I do. That was funny.
Garrett, did you say you had 2024? I'm losing my mind. I forget if we got to you and what's upcoming for this year.
As of yet, I don't have anything planned. I'm kind of hoping, like the rest of us, for Ryman dates. Don't know if they'll do Knoxville this year. That's kind of a every other year kind of thing, whether they hit Knoxville or not. I mean, every year I hope they do, because when I see the Ryman come up, I'm like, ooh, good. Maybe they'll book a bonus Knoxville night and I can make a little run out of it. But I'm just hoping for the Ryman, or maybe something close, maybe something in South Carolina. I got family over there I can go stay with and, you know, get a free room for a night if they play close enough to where they live. But I'll make something work out. I mean, I need a Derek fix every year. I can't go without getting a TTB fix for at least one show.
Sometimes they sneak in Chattanooga. Tivoli Theater or something in Chattanooga once in a while too.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's even closer to me than Nashville. So that's only like maybe an hour and 15 minutes from me. So that'd be really nice.
Well, Daniel, I hope we can say hello on that Friday night there in New York.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm up in the balcony this time. That's all right. You know, hope to run into you. Adam, you too, of course. You know?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You got UF fans, David. I'm not sure if we know who this.
Dave in Chicago and Jeff. Who's
MAKN King? Just I don't know. You probably know this person.
Mr. King. Well, the crowd was so great in Chicago. It was and thanks to Jeff Fink, he's the one that got Ann and I tickets in Chicago. We were struggling to get tickets, and he came through with some tickets for us. So you've had Jeff Fink on here before.
Of course, Jeff, friend of the podcast. Good dude. My friend of mine. Mm-hmm.
From Austin, Texas, I believe.
Right. Cool. What about TTB in Texas? They do have the supporting Chris Stapleton is Arlington.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I think Marcus King is on that bill too, huh?
It's a festival. It's a festival type show.
It's like the All American Road Show. I think that's what he calls it.
Yeah,
something like that.
Right.
Yeah, but it's just another one, you know, for them. So they've been sitting in with everybody, and they've been, you know, opening for people. It's like I feel like there's on the up. Crowds are only going to get bigger, playing bigger venues, stuff like that. But still, and I mean, it's one of those things too that. Adam, I've heard you remark about this before. It's like apparently they were going to be slowing down in 2023, but it seems like they're playing like all over, like
right
as much as they could. So I think Derek had an interview where he said that You know, they're gonna like the tentative plan was to kind of have like an on year and an off year where, you know, like they would have, but it seems like they didn't really see the way that shook out is they didn't really slow down at all.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Different
Lots to look
stuff.
forward to.
Hey,
Yep.
Garrett, I got my first show coming up. You mentioned earlier, Charlie Starr. He does a little acoustic thing. Usually does about a half dozen shows in January. He's going to be playing Atlanta in about 10 days. Acoustic show. Him and Benji Shanks is always a fun time. And I know Blackberry Smoke will be at that show in Florida, that little festival they're doing. They're going to be on the bill with TTB one night as well. So hopefully some more collaboration. I do love seeing Charlie. I love seeing Charlie and Susan sing together, and then Charlie and Derek on guitar together. That's a nice mix.
Yeah, I love those Charlie and Benji acoustic shows. I've seen a couple of them, and they're always fun. Yeah, that lineup at the beach, man, that's got like everybody I like on it, and I'm like, man, if I could just make that work, and unfortunately I can't. But man, it's JJ Gray, Maggie Rose, TTB, Dwayne Betts is there with his project. I mean, the sit-in possibilities are endless. I would love to see Maggie Rose sit in and do something with Susan. I think both their voices would be incredible on like The Wait or
nice. Yeah, I like
or
that.
Something like that where it's got, you know, powerful leads where they both could switch off on different verses, and you know Dwayne Betts is going to sit in and they'll do Blue Sky or Dreams or something like that. I would assume he's going to sit in.
Yeah.
And JJ Gray too. I mean, JJ does Into the Mystic a lot, and I mean, I would love to hear a recording with him sitting in on that. I think that'd be awesome. Like I said, I wish I could be down there so bad, but I just can't make it work. So I'm jealous you're going, David. I can't wait to hear.
You gotta have a good time. You gotta have a good time for all of us, David.
Yeah, I'll do my darndest. I'm kind of hoping Derek sits in with Dwayne Betts. I hate that. I think it's Johnny Satchel, I think is his name. The other guitarist that plays in Dwayne Betts' band. He's phenomenal. He is really good. So I'd love to see Derek hopefully sit in with those guys. That would be really cool. That would be neat.
Yeah, Johnny Satchel is incredible for sure.
Yeah,
he's very talented.
Yeah, so that would be cool if Derek sits in with them. That'd be awesome. Like you said, the possibilities are endless of what could sit in there. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Anything else you guys think we want to cover from last year or looking forward to this year? Anything else that you wanted to share, Garrett? You said maybe you had some stories or anecdotes about the band that were worth mentioning.
Since we mentioned the Kofi Service Day, I'll tell a quick Kofi story.
Perfect. Great.
I know David's been to the Wani Festival before. Didn't you say that on another episode? You've been down there?
Oh yeah.
Well,
was that your first TTB show?
That was my first TTB experience. Was Wani.
Yeah, it was neat at that festival. You know, Derek and Susan always did like the midnight show on that smaller amphitheater stage. And 2009, it was cool because unknowing at the time, they brought up members of what would be TTB. You know, everybody walked over there because it was billed as like Derek Trucks Band or Derek and Susan Band, or I forget how it was billed, but nobody knew at the time. But we were all standing there watching what would become TTB. And you know, I'm like, man, that was a treat because it wasn't billed as that. It wasn't, you know, billed as anything different, but we got a completely different show from, you know, years past. And the Kofi story I wanted to share, the unique thing about this festival is that, you know, they could go between stages and sit in with their friends. And Kofi sat in with the Lee Boys with Roosevelt Collier on pedal steel. And after the set, some of us are just, you know, standing there waiting for the next band, and Kofi walks out from behind stage, and you know, I went over to him and shook his hand, said, "Hey, great job sitting in, you know, a big fan. I love all you do with Derek Trucks Band and TTB," and got to talking to him. Man, he was one of the most down to earth guys, man. He just, you know, he was headed somewhere and he had his gear in his hand. He said, "You know what?" He goes, "I'm not in a hurry." He goes, "Let me put this stuff down." And he put all his stuff down and just stood there and talked to any of us that would walk up to him. He was probably there for a good 20, 25 minutes just chatting, and that blew me away. That, I mean, you'd think, you know, these people would kind of get hounded at these places, but the fact that, you know, we didn't have a big swarm of people was nice, and he had time to just hang out, and you could tell he was enjoying it as much as we were. It was really cool to talk to him, and, you know, he was so down to earth, man. I miss having him in TTB, and Gabe does a great job, and I love listening to Gabe play on stuff that Kofi's written, because you can tell he's as passionate about it as we are, and he's paying tribute to Kofi, but bringing his own thing as well. You know, so anytime I get to talk to one of the members, it's always special. And I got to meet Alicia and Elizabeth at the Ryman this year, and first time I talked to either one of them. And, you know, again, as we've talked several times, you know, they blow me away with their kindness. The whole band does. It's, you know, it's remarkable for, you know, as well known as they're getting to be, they still take that time, and they'll come out and sign a set list. Or, I mean, David, I think you were there. You remember how far back they had us from the buses, and then, you know, they'd come out and we'd cheer them all, and we'd, you know, yell their names, and they'd kind of act kind of bashful about it, and then we'd cheer louder, and so they'd come over, and that was, it's always unique when they acknowledge the fans. That's something I appreciate about the band, because not every band will do that. You know, you'll get a wave or you'll get a peace sign from somebody as they're getting on the bus, but I don't know a lot of bands that take that time to come over and acknowledge the fan base.
That was what I was going to say, was that is what you're describing, and I appreciate you sharing all that, especially the stuff about Kofi and all that. Is that what you're describing is a somewhat fairly unique musical experience, fan experience for Tedeschi Trucks Band fans, especially, you know, the hardcore fans like us who, you know, at the very least just want to say hi to the band and say thank you for the music. I had a great time at the show, even if it's just that interaction that we're seeking. It's like we get more fan engagement, personal engagement from the band than other fans do of their favorite act. Maybe even not, it doesn't necessarily even have to be a higher profile act that I'm referring to. Like, it's not even about like how famous an act is or the size of their following. It's just that these people just, you know, their musical talents aside, like, are such like down to earth is the phrase we keep on, you know, using over and over again for sure. It's like, it's just makes it a great experience for the fans.
Yeah, I think they kind of frown sometimes that the security kind of wants to keep them from the fans when they want to say hey and thank you for coming to the show and this, that, and the other. And sometimes the security is, you know, wanting to maybe keep a little separation.
Right. The things with set lists and how close you can get to the stage and what the standing sometimes versus the dance, like a lot of these like fan experience things at shows. It's not a lot, but it's almost pretty much never the band like making some kind of rule or edict or decision. It's always like, you know, the venue like coming up with these things that may, you know, crimp on some of the fan style and what we want a little bit. But the band is always, you know, very engaging and supportive and friendly with the fans.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, it comes across in the music too. You know, there's something very wholesome in I'd say like there's a theme to the lyrics, and yeah, I think that's the word that comes to mind. It just feels like wholesome with the band. You know, I think it has some.
I was gonna say, without being cheesy or corny or any things like that or melodramatic, they are a wholesome, positive band without being, you know, unrealistic about the world and the negative things in it and the negative things that we all deal with. They're realists too, but they're also a positive, I would say, wholesome band too.
Oh yeah, you know, like when I say
powerful too.
Yeah, it's not that the lyrics are all sunshine and rainbows. You know, it's like I say that you know, Midnight in Harlem will always be one of my favorite songs because there's something about the words to that song that just says something that like I can't articulate, but just is like it's like a deep truth. There's a deep truth to that song, to the words to that song.
Something that go on.
No, please, yeah. Sorry.
No, go on. If you finish first.
I didn't have a thought.
You're working on it.
Yeah,
no, I was gonna say one of the things that I love about this band, especially, and I think this is something that is also, and I've said this, that relates to the Stones, which are also, you know, they're pretty much maybe my favorite band, act before TTB, is that there really is a song or an album or something that I could find to suit any sort of mood that I'm in. Like I could find a Stones song to suit just about any sort of mood or feeling that I'm feeling in a moment. And you could find the same for TTB, whether you're in a really, really dark place in your life or you are partying. Because that's kind of like what this band is in a lot of ways. And that's what I was going to say before when you're talking about the slide medley is like, they're a blues rock soul powerhouse with world influences and all this blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, they are kind of just like the best party band, the best bar band that you could find. Like, and they do have played weddings and things like that in private gigs. So like, if you need a party band, like, Derek can play Indian classical music, with the best of them. But if you got a party, call TTB for that too.
Oh yeah, sure. You gonna hit up the Stones for this tour?
I was gonna say, yeah. I was asking.
I know they're doing Jazz Fest.
Are you gonna go see the great grandfathers?
The great grandfather, the Ronnie Wood. He got young kids, but that's a whole nother another kind of. I don't know that I'm gonna
grandfathers by now.
I mean, I think so. I would like to see the Stones in 1973 or something like that. Like that'd be more my thing. Like my musical budget does tend to go to TTB and to more local things in LA.
That's a good call.
I have to pass on a lot of the like higher profile acts that I would like to see in favor of like seeing TTB, doing TTB things, and like some of the more, let me go see my friend's band. There, I'm discovering a fair amount of good musicians in LA. It's funny how a lot of people don't know TTB or Derek or Susan, but then like I'll go to like a blues rock show of music that's sort of in that genre and vein of TTB a little bit, and then I'll talk to everyone there and all the musicians. Oh yeah, we love Susan and Derek. We know all the they're your guitarist's favorite guitar player. And no matter what city you're in, if you're hanging around people who are in they're not super popular in terms of like popular culture necessarily, Tedeschi Trucks Band, but in terms of in the music industry, I think everybody like knows who they are. If you've ever, I don't know.
And I think we're starting to see that change too. I've met more people that know them and that like them, recent years.
Yeah. Definitely. Good stuff. Anything else we should mention, cover, or anything like that? I'll give you guys a chance to say your piece. That was Randy Bershaw,
I'm hoping for Spanish Moon with at the Atlantic City shows with Little Feat.
The Little Feat.
And they've played it before, and I haven't looked it up yet, but I can just imagine the Tedeschi Trucks on Spanish Moon by Little Feat would be phenomenal. So we'll see. Little Feat's opening for them, so whether or not Tedeschi Trucks plays well, maybe Derek will just come out with them or
it's possible,
something like that. But I'm really looking forward to it. It's gonna be a great time.
That'd be awesome.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
I'll plug a couple of things, Adam, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Well, I do publish. I have a YouTube channel, just my name. If you want to see a lot of TTB videos and stuff, there's a lot of stuff up there. Some of the local stuff that I go to see in Atlanta as well. Some good stuff up there. And other thing I've been doing for a couple of years, and I don't know if you ever see it. It's on Susan's fan page. I post a concert picture that I've taken myself every Saturday. I call it Happy Susan Saturday. So,
Susan Tedeschi fan page on YouTube. It's a group just so you can find it on Facebook.
On Facebook,
Susan Tedeschi fan page. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I post a picture that I've taken every Saturday. I've been doing that for a couple of years, and it's just fun and get to connect with some people saying hi and stuff like that. So, check it out, folks, if you want. Again, I love this.
Yeah, well, you guys are good archivists. You and Larry and Zach Transport and some others. Like some of you guys are really good in terms of like the organizing of like the set lists and songs and personal experiences.
I just subscribed to your channel, Dave.
And you have a channel too. You have some TTV
I do.
Stuff I watch your stuff. I watch your stuff too. Daniel.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, there are 2 shows I went to this year that there's
Santander one, right?
Santander and the Vogel. There's no archive recording. So, I try to be courteous about it. I'm never trying to block anybody's view when I, film, but every show I go to, I try to film like 1 or 2 full songs. And sometimes it's all, I can find just audience recording, audience video recordings, like all you can find from a show. So I'm always happy to have them, especially when nobody does the whole thing. I might have to learn how to do audio recordings. Honestly, though, it bums me out so much when I go to a show, especially a Tedeschi Trucks show that you can't get a recording of. It's a bummer.
Well, there
connect
is
with
on
I
YouTube,
say connect with Ed Gendelman.
Video of Madison Square Garden on
Mhm.
YouTube. Have you seen that, Daniel?
There's a full video of the whole show.
Full video, yeah.
Oh, I know there's one at Peach Fest. I found that. I downloaded that. I'll see if I can
Square Garden. There's a full.
It's like a side angle or something.
Oh, okay, cool.
This is front on. No, it's actually a fellow I met in Atlanta. He actually did the whole second Atlanta show, and then he did the whole Madison Square Garden. So there's 2 of them on YouTube.
Awesome. I'll look it up. I'll find it.
Yeah, if you want to check those out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam, thank you so much, man. It's always fun to talk about our favorite bands,
I agree. No,
a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, no, like I was gonna say, like if they were a band that had the same set list every night, I don't think I would be able to do this podcast or be as excited to do it. Maybe I would be. I don't know, because their catalog is so huge and I love the music so much. But the fact that there's so much to look forward to and so many really new, you just don't know what to expect from show to show. Exactly. Like you have a general sense of, they're playing maybe this a lot on this tour, but beyond like that broad sense, like you don't know what you're going to get at a show, but it's going to be special and it's going to be powerful and uplifting and all that. And I'm thankful for the band and thankful for the music and thankful for you guys and looking forward to the year. And again, Happy New Year, everyone. And
could they put out a new album?
Plenty more to come.
Put out a new album in 2024?
Probably not put out, but I think maybe announce.
You might start seeing some new songs.
Right, new songs and announcement. Mm-hmm. Depending on what they're legally allowed to do, because they like it's. I thought about how I guess probably with some management change and representation change over the years, like how we did hear a lot of the Signs and Let Me Get By music ahead of time live before those albums were released, compared to the Eye of the Moon stuff, which we did get sort of drips and samples of through the Fireside series, and maybe a couple of things were played live beforehand, but for the most part, maybe not actually. Like we didn't really get any Eye of the Moon stuff like live until after it was released, other than the original Fireside. I think. I don't know.
I think they were like they played the first album, right? When they started touring, only the first album was out, and they only played from that. And then when they released the second one, they started adding that in. I think it was. They had
also, we talked about how they had a lot to play, but it's like too much to learn. Because in my mind, when they were releasing the Eye of the Moon albums at the same time as like touring, I'm like, okay, they're gonna play all 5. Then they're gonna release one. They're gonna play the new 5. Then when they release the third album, they're gonna, for this part of the tour, they're gonna play these 5. But it's like it didn't exactly work like that. It was kind of what they were liking, what they were doing, sprinkling old things. It wasn't super strict in that regard, because I think partly it's just. It was even just too many songs to like, too many new songs to like learn. I mean, I'm sure they would do them all justice, and they have a higher standard for themselves than I have for them. Even is ultimately what
Derek definitely seems like a bit of a perfectionist, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Well, in 2021, we got Best of the Beacon. 2022, we got Best of Europe. So I'm really hoping that for 2023, I guess they release it this year, but we get the Garden Parties as like a live album
Best
release.
of the Garden Parties. How about that?
I'm really hoping for that one. That would be a great one.
I just put out everything, at least the audio. Put out all the audio.
That'd be the way to do it. Yeah.
I wonder if eventually they get with like Nugs or something where they could get live stuff out more frequently.
That's what I want. The Dead music is like that. You can get everything, right? But like I wish the Tedeschi Trucks, I could just download any show. That would be great.
Yeah, take our money.
Yeah, exactly.
Please. That, and I wonder about Mad Dogs and Englishmen. Are we ever going to see that come? I wonder what the update is with that, if there even
The
is.
Learning to Live Together documentary.
Yeah,
I mean,
the movie?
I think they're either seeking a platform for it still, or I think something with the rights to the music. I think that's like, because there's a lot of covers and a lot of ownership. I think that's probably what the delay is, from what I understand. I don't know. I haven't. What they should do is give the fans an update, some kind of update. I think that's really would be helpful. But yeah, I think ultimately, obviously people want to see that, and I keep saying, I was lucky enough to see it multiple times and feel bad. That's what I get on the West Coast. I shouldn't feel bad. You guys get all the shows, but at least I got to see that film at a couple of screenings multiple times, and it is totally awesome because it does really weave the narrative of the story of what's going on musically with it being a concert film as well. And you're getting a lot of music, but you're getting behind. It's a perfect mix of behind the scenes and storytelling and live music performances.
Adam, is your dad coming to the Beacon?
I think they're maybes. I think some family and friends are maybes. We'll see. Maybe I'll see who can help us scoop up a ticket. I said, I'm like, come to one of the shows, come out to one of them. But I'm glad that I got, I've had that experience with like multiple families and friends over the years where it's like I can check that off my bucket list, and they can. If there was been to a TTB show with my friend Steve, been to a TTB show with my sister, with dad, with mom, with this friend, with that friend. So it's like, I've dragged a bunch of people here as well along for the ride.
You're less than 60 days away from getting to see them live again.
Yeah, it hasn't hit me yet, really. Maybe it'll hit me when I'm on the plane flying.
One of the coolest things, I think, is when you bring people to a show and you get to see their reaction to
That's what I was saying
see
earlier. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a buddy that I worked with at Food City for years, and he was an older guy. And, one day we just we didn't really know each other, but we just started talking music. And I mentioned, Derek and Warren and who's different. He's like, yeah, I love all those people. He's like, I don't have anybody I can go to shows with. So we just kind of linked up, and I'm like, hey, Derek's coming with Tedeschi Trucks. You want to go see that? And his eyes got real big, and he's like, yeah, let's go check that out. And I mean, I got him to that first show, and I think while he was still with us, I think we made it to like 4 TTB shows, and every time he'd leave it, and his eyes would just be really big, and his jaw would about hit the floor because he was just so amazed by what he saw. And he just would, the whole drive home, like whether it was from Knoxville or if we were driving to a buddy's house in Nashville to stay the night, he'd just be recapping it all right there in the car going, man, I was amazed by this song. And he loved when Susan and Kofi would do, I think it was Bird on a Wire, when it was just her and Kofi, I think. David, you probably remember better than I do, but
yeah, I've seen that live.
He loved that because he dug both Susan and Kofi so much. And he's like, man, that song just hits me right in the heart every time. And, it's so cool to listen to people like that, just recap it in their words. And my cousin, actually, I took him when they hit South Carolina with that Wheels of Soul with Blackberry Smoke, because Blackberry Smoke's another group I love a lot. And so he got to see kind of my musical world that night. And he was just like, man, he was like, I hear you talk about these bands all the time. He's like, but now I get it. He's like, I see why you love this live music thing so much. And it's just, again, he was floored by, not only Derek, but the entire band on stage. He's like, and I told him beforehand, I'm like, man, there's nobody else out there doing what TTB is doing, especially with that big of a band. And we walked out, and he goes, you're right, 100%. He's like, I don't know of anybody else on the scene right now that can be that organized with that big of a band and bring that much power to one show. And it's amazing to see people's reactions, because you don't know how it's going to hit them. You talk them into going, and then it's like you let the band do the rest. It's like, okay, right. I got them here. Let's see what TTB can do to, really convince them this was the right move. And every time I've done that, I've come away with nothing but positive responses.
I think it's impossible if you are a musician or you're a singer, or you just really appreciate musicianship on any level, to go to a Tedeschi Trucks Band show, and not, if you're not familiar with the band, to not come away and be appreciative of the music, enjoy it, or most likely be totally floored by what you just saw like live. Because like if you're a musician and you're like if you're a horn person, you're gonna enjoy the show. If you're a drummer, you're gonna enjoy the show. If you're a guitar head, you're gonna enjoy it. If you're somebody who loves silky smooth vocals and amazing vocals and the diversity of vocalists who are powerful and soulful, you're gonna have a great time. So it's like, no matter where you're coming from, even people who are not into necessarily this genre of music that we love, or classic rock, blues, this types of music, you're still gonna appreciate. I can't help but think of Larry Williams, a past guest of the show, who actually plays some drums himself. Grateful Brothers is his tribute band. Dead and Allman Brothers, obviously, together. And he talked about bringing a metalhead buddy, I think, to show metal drummer to the TTB show, and being like, I don't know if this guy's going to be into like what he sees, but like the band is just so super duper powerful. And if you are a drummer, like how could you not get excited about what you're seeing live, seeing two amazing drummers, like, go at it. So it's like, yeah, this band is amazing no matter where you're
amazing drummers,
coming from.
3 incredible horn players, 5 singers, 2 guitar players, a bass player, a keyboard, and a partridge in a pear tree. If you like music, you're going to have a great time. If you bring somebody to TTB and they like music, they're going to love it. They're going to have a great time.
But we might all get hooked in from... Right, and we could get hooked in from different areas. Like I was saying, if you're a drummer, you could get hooked into that. If you're a bass person, if you're into this to sing, like I was saying, sometimes I'll send people who are not familiar with the band a different song based on like what their specific tastes are. If they're more like leaning towards singer, songwriter, vocalist things, I might send them more of a Susan ballad song versus like the jam band friends. I might send them Passaquan. Yeah, until you remember. That's a good one. On that note, I keep running my mouth and going on long again. We could talk about this band all day, but thank you again, guys. We'll do it again soon.
No problem.
Happy to have you guys anytime. Thank you, Randy, in the chat. Get you on again soon. You're welcome to join anytime as well. I'm going to be bothering people to come on and recap some of these early 2024 shows, I'm sure. Maybe get someone on to recap the dead tribute thing that the band is doing. But thank you again, guys, and I'll do my little outro, and then we could do a little
have a good night, guys.
Offline if you
Thanks,
want.
Adam.
But let's talk soon. Thank you again, guys.
Happy
New Year.
Happy New Year.
Peace. Happy New Year. So there you go. That was episode 138, recapping Tedeschi Trucks Band in 2023. Little 2024 preview in there as well. Thank you to David and to Daniel and to Garrett and to Larry for joining me on that episode and helping recap the past year. Especially, I figured this was we were gonna go a couple of hours for this one. I kind of mentally prepared for that. I knew that. I can spend 2 hours just recapping one set, let alone an entire year. So it was super fun to recap and get it out of my system. Really, I felt like I needed to do that. It's good, but I hope everyone's doing okay out there. Please check out at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram. Please follow the show on subscribe rather on iTunes, Spotify, whichever way you listen. Positive reviews are appreciated on Apple Podcasts. I'm at Adam Choit, Instagram, Twitter, adamchoit.com for all my personal stuff. Tedeschi Trucks Podcast.com for everything related to the show. Tedeschi Trucks Band.com is the band's official website. Join the Swamp Family fan club. Download the app, buy merch, buy tickets to shows, support the band. Also, fandium.com/TTB. I just spoke to Paul Peck, who's the co-founder and president of that organization, and they're auctioning off a signed Warren Haynes TTB guitar that will benefit, not auctioning, it's a sweepstakes for a signed guitar that benefits Why Hunger. So definitely check that out and buy tickets to that sweepstakes. I bought a bunch myself, and I said that if I win the guitar, I'm gonna re-donate it again to Fandiem to re-auction or whatever again to raise even more money. But definitely FANDIEM.com/TTB. Check that out. But I think that's about all I got for today. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. The support. Happy New Year. Looking forward to the Beacon shows and this year in general. But let's talk soon. Peace.